Hello again. It is currently April 2nd, 11:30 p.m. It is currently storming outside and we are in the middle of a severe weather alert. So why not make a video? I live in a residence hall at a university and we just had the alarms go off, and so the alarms are blaring and everyone goes out of the hallways and the stairwells. They get crammed and the basement gets even more filled. And then the lights go off. The lights go off for 5 seconds and I swear everyone becomes a 5-year-old again, experiencing what it feels like to sleep in a room without your parents for the first time. It's complete chaos. So that's currently what's going on. You might see some lightning and that's okay. We're going to be talking about some of the books that I've read this past month, and some of the movies that I've watched and some of the things that I've been thinking about recently. So, yeah, let's get into it. The first book that I want to talk about is A Separate Piece by John Knowles. I made a TikTok about this video and I don't like repeating myself because it feels scripted or it doesn't feel genuine, but I'm going to repeat from that video so you guys get the general idea of what this book is about. This book is about 2 academy students living just on the brink of World War II. And so they have to live in a reality knowing that post-graduation they will more than likely be drafted into a war that they will more than likely not survive. And they're trying to make the most of their adolescent experience. And one of the characters, Phineas, consistently regards the war as fake. He thinks it's a farce. And that idea is something that I found really relevant today because there's a lot going on in the world that isn't directly affecting us. And this book shows us what happens when you let those things build up. Phineas consistently ignores the idea that he's going to have to go into war, and so what this book is really trying to say is, or show us, is the feeling, what it feels like to grow up, and the transition from childhood to adulthood and the scary seriousness that comes with that when it finally hits you. And if any of you are 17 or 18, or you're just going off to college, or you just graduated from college, I'm sure that you can relate to that idea in this book of just, what now? Like, oh my gosh, I'm here. So much has changed, and now like the reality is setting in. And so this book does a good job of showing you why you should pay attention to those things and why you shouldn't ignore them and why you should be courageous and face them. The other reason you might want to read this book is the homosexual undertones that are ever present throughout the book between Jean and Phineas. Jean consistently romanticizes Phineas, but never directly in a romantic way. And John Knowles has never directly expressed that the characters are romantically into each other. But it's important to note that throughout history, gay people have always been able to find themselves in literature by reading between the lines. And so this has been one of those books which was published very early in the 19th century and was maybe a part of the Beat Generation push with Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg, and the progressive movement and the normalization of gay people, which is wonderful. It's great that we live in a society. I live in America. We live in a society where we're becoming more accepting of people. And I would like to talk about this topic at the end of this video after I talk about a few of the other books that I've read. The big thing that I want to talk about in this video is boy love, young boy love. And please stay for that. Please stay till the end of this video for that. So, but yeah, you should definitely check out A Separate Piece by John Knowles. This book was really, really good, and it's really easy to read. It's like 13 chapters, and the font size is like the perfect size to read. It doesn't strain your eyes too hard, and yeah, overall, really good book. That's A Separate Piece by John Knowles. Let's get into the next one. The next book that I read was The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This is a book I actually revisited. It is about Theo Decker, who is an eventual orphan who finds himself in possession of a very valuable painting. And so what this book is about is what art and beauty can mean to us, among lots of other things. But the reason that I revisited this book, the main reason I revisited this book, was because of the relationship between Theo Decker and one of his best friends in youth, Boris. And they have a really close bond, Theo and Boris, and they are very physical with each other. They end up sharing a kiss, and they even say, "I love you." And even though they do all of that, Theo Decker does end up with a girl from his childhood. And I'm not completely convinced that Boris and Theo's relationship was romantic, even though they had very intimate moments together, and even though they had this very close bond. And that's one of the things that I've been thinking about this month is love, and how we in English have a very limited vocabulary for love. We have maybe one or two words, and they don't completely capture all the nuances that can be in a relationship or be in feelings. This is actually an idea that one of my friends brought up to me, and it's just been biting at me all month. I've been thinking about it all month, especially in connection between young boys, which is something that I'm going to get into at the end of this video. And so, but this book overall is fantastic. It's a Pulitzer Prize winner. It has a 2019 adaptation, so if you don't like reading books, you can go watch the movie instead. But Donna Tartt is a fantastic author. She wrote The Secret History. And so if you haven't read this book, you definitely should. And if you have read The Secret History, there's actually a cameo of one of the characters from that book. Francis Abernathy makes an appearance in this book, and if you've read The Secret History, then you know that Francis Abernathy is a gay character, and so that's just even more complexity in this book and in Theo's relationships. But overall, this is a fantastic book that you should check out. Yeah, let's get into the movies. Okay, so I watched 2 movies this month. One of them is one I've already seen, but we'll start with the first. The first one was Tolkien, which is a movie about J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of Lord of the Rings, and what his life was like. And that movie was really, really good as a classics major. I didn't expect it to talk about language as much as it did, and if you are someone who is interested in language at all, I would recommend checking out the movie because it does a great job of romanticizing it and making it something very beautiful, and it will inspire you to stay up late and research Latin and Greek or Hittite or whatever you're studying. Yeah, fantastic for that. I loved seeing language and the study of it get romanticized. It was amazing. The other part of the movie that I loved was the relationship, the companionship between J.R.R. Tolkien and his childhood best friends. They have such a tight knit relationship and bond, and they form a club together, and it's just it's wonderful to see. I love seeing male relationships in movies. I love Dead Poet Society, which also has very close male relationships. I think it's something that's wonderful and should be put out there more. But Tolkien was a wonderful movie. It was fantastic. It was interesting and it was exciting. Yeah, I 5 out of 5 stars. That was a great movie. The second movie that I watched, the one that I revisited, was Lord of the Rings, and I felt inspired by the Tolkien movie, and I wanted to revisit his work, and um, watching a movie after doing a little bit of research or reading a book for a second time is, as Donna Tartt put it, I think she said, it's like walking into a building for the first time and being in awe of the architecture, and then going to architecture school and studying buildings, and then uh, re-going into a fantastic place, and then you understand all the nuances in the design, and so you get a second burst of inspiration and wow. And I felt like that's what happened when watching Lord of the Rings after watching Tolkien. I watched Lord of the Rings with not much information. The first time that I watched it, I was really young. And after watching Tolkien and sort of understanding the background and doing a lot more research on his life, and then rewatching the film, it's like, oh my, it's like, whoa, this is way better than than the last time that I watched it. Like I understand it more. I see more. And that was one of the reasons that I watched it. The other reason was the relationship between Sam and Frodo, which is another male to male bond relationship, and it's so strong in that movie. The way that Sam feels towards Frodo, it's feels more powerful than love, but not in a romantic way, and not in maybe in a family way. But watching that movie with those two things in mind was is a really great experience. And if you haven't watched Tolkien, but you have watched Lord of the Rings, watch Tolkien and then watch Lord of the Rings again, and just see what that experience is like. Yeah. But yes, okay. We're finally going to get into the overlapping connections between the literature that I've read and the movies that I watched. So get ready. So here we are at the end of the video, and what I have been thinking about over the past month, and what I've seen, what I've read in literature, and what I've seen in the movies that I've watched is the relationship between males. And I think that there has been love gained and love lost over the past 100 years. And what I mean by that is we don't see platonic, intimate relationships between males nowadays. And I think it's something that was a lot more prevalent in the 1920s or pre-2000s, really. And so you would have boys who would roughhouse with each other, who would compliment each other, and who would form these really strong bonds. Not that that doesn't happen nowadays, but it doesn't happen as much. If you've seen Dead Poet Society, there's a closeness there that you don't really see nowadays, especially when it's connecting over poetry or art or something, or humanities. And I think one of the reasons for that is the progressive movement for normalizing gay culture, which is a wonderful thing, by the way. Accepting people for who they are is a wonderful thing. But I think what happened was, or why it might be a contributing factor, is as we become more progressive and we become more open about sexuality, men start becoming afraid that them being vulnerable with each other, them being close with each other, will be interpreted as having romantic feelings, like love, like a romantic love for each other. And so what that means is they're cautious with the way that they behave around each other, and they don't attempt to do anything that might venture into the realm of misinterpretation. And I think that's a tragedy. I think boys, they want that connection badly. If you've been around any group of guys between the ages of 16 to 22, at least in my experience, you get any group of guys between that age group together, and they just immediately start sexualizing each other, and it's such a weird phenomenon, but it's a way that they're able to connect by complimenting each other and hyping each other up. And I think that derives from a deep desire to want to share an intimate connection with another guy, but not in a romantic way, to share a close bond. And I suppose I sometimes get upset when I see when I see people making Dead Poet Society or like a separate piece, when they say that the characters are absolutely 100% gay and they have gay feelings for each other, because I think that these forms of media are supposed to be open to interpretation, and I think it would also be a tragedy to not have media that displays platonic intimate relationships between guys. And I wish we had more I wish we had more film and more books that delved deep into how close men could be without it being romantic. I If you guys know any films or books that delve into that idea, I would love to hear your guys' suggestions. Um, I think it's important. I think it's important that people can read between the lines, and I think it's important that there are films and books out there that talk about gay relationships. If We Were Villains, for example, is a great book that demonstrates that. Or Kill Your Darlings with Jack Kerouac and William Burroughs. I think it's important. But I think one of the things that does need attention right now, especially right now in the modern 2020s, is conversations around male relationships, and how close that they can be, and how we haven't been diving as deep into that well as we have before. And yeah, that's I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. I hope that nothing I said has come off as insensitive, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I also don't really know where to go from here. How do we change this? How do we change society so we can uh, get back to having more deeper, beautiful connections? Is there a way to do that? Are we too far gone? But yeah. All right. Well, that's what I'm gonna leave you guys with, and I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments and what you guys think. Give me some new perspectives. Give me some new things to think about. Yeah. All right. Bye.